I'm in the snake, I'm in the apple, I'm in the garden, hear whispers and laughter.
At this period, we got pretty heavily into Parliament, and I think we just assumed that we could play funk. It really influenced everything that we did at this point. The song titles that we'd come up with were always really stupid. I think at this point I didn't feel comfortable writing songs, and so it always had to kind of be couched in a joke.
There was a bit of a community as far as bands go at the University of Miami back then, and you could play at least 3 different places on campus.
I remember that first gig at the Wesley Coffee House on campus.
This is an original tune. It's going to be a little bit out of tune. So, you don't. Thank you. We're here all night, unfortunately. So.
And I distinctly remember putting flyers around campus and thinking everybody is going to come to this because it's going to be awesome.
And, you know, we've got intro jam here, which probably was like a 7-minute long blues jam. We played Soul to Squeeze by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. We played No Surprises by Radiohead. Let's Get It On, the Fat Albert theme song, Dear Prudence. It was Superstition. It was just all over the place. And the thing was, we thought that we could really, I think, play these songs for some reason. And then we played the Rathskeller, which was the bar on campus.
That was the coolest place to play, at least in the University of Miami band circles, because it was happy hour on Fridays. There would be a lot of people at it.
The cool thing about that was the stage was about, 30 feet above the ground over the bar.
You wanted to be the band playing at the Friday happy hour show.
We always were creative with the way that we would try to get people to come out, and we would put flyers all around campus, and we would put the flyers in bizarre places so they wouldn't get taken down. Like I remember stapling a flyer to a palm tree.
And I always had a very particular interest in the flyers being attention-grabbing and humorous. This first one, we wanted pictures of us when we were in kindergarten, and Devin never brought his, so I just made him a little Buddhist monk. Another one which was really good was we turned on a strobe light and just opened the shutter and let it be stroboscopic, but Chris never showed up, so I drew him. Also, because I was taking a photo class, we did some headshots where we're all trying to look really cool and serious.
So we've played 2 gigs, and I believe I got a phone call by this woman who said, do you want to play a Battle of the Bands? The winner gets to open for Air. And at this point, Air had just done the Virgin Suicides soundtrack. They were kind of a big deal, and we're thinking, man, this is awesome.
We thought this was it. I can't believe it. We played 1 show and they've already found out about us. It was also at an Italian restaurant off the 836 near the airport in West Miami. All the other bands were Spanish hardcore bands. It's like real raw bands.
And right away, we knew that we were not in our element. And then they take us inside and we say, hey, is Air gonna be here? And they were a bunch of pushing 40 Cuban guys with long hair and leather pants. And I believe we said something like, did you guys do the Virgin Suicide soundtrack? And they said, no, that's AIR, we're HEIR. Right there we knew we were about, that we were gonna get screwed. They asked me to give out, I think bottle openers they were. And so I just started throwing them out into the crowd, and I accidentally threw it right into a lamp and shattered this lamp in the bar. And it seemed to get the crowd on our side. But it ended up being kind of the best show that we had ever done.
Obviously we lost the Battle of the Bands, but I remember losing it and driving back to UM being all pissed off. I was listening to a song that I listened to at the time, and which said that you cannot jump to the absolute, you have to evolve, and just thinking, sure, that's the message here, but I don't care. I want to jump to the absolute.
At the UC patio, that was another big deal because that was one of the most coveted gigs on campus. And this was not one of our good shows. This was still in the era where it was like, you didn't play enough to know what was going to happen. I mean, every show was literally just a roller coaster.
I don't know where we got the idea to play Sunset Place, but it was this mega mall of the future.
There was no money, but we had to play for 3 hours.
And the first one was awesome. It was just phenomenal. It felt so good.
I think we did a Fish song, and I believe we tried to play Jammin' by Bob Marley, which again, looking back, it's just every bad, unfortunate mistake and choice you can make in the book. Every single one. We'd play for 3 hours. So in a way we had to play Fish songs because we had to play every song we had ever heard.
Lips are like my birthday.
After I graduated, we kind of separated with Devin and Chris.
Eric and I always planned on continuing the band, and so we ended up getting one of his other roommates, Masa, to play drums, and Stacy, his then girlfriend, to play keyboards, and kept playing at Sunset Place. And for these shows, we would have to basically bring all of our own sound equipment. And this was really when we were paying serious dues at these gigs. 3 hours, no money. By the end of it, I remember I'd be jumping around and moving so much, just trying so hard to put on a show that anyone would watch, and no one would watch. And this is when I debuted The Jump, which was kind of the big showstopper for a long time. And that just kind of became my thing, like our trademark for a while. We started playing this bar in Hollywood called Club M.
And I remember trying to book a gig. And back then you had to call places. And I remember just literally being at my wit's end, just I didn't know what to do. And I remember calling Club M in Hollywood and just being like, if this guy doesn't give us a booking, I'm just gonna quit. And literally, right over the phone on the first call, he was like, how about next week?
And it was another one of those ones, 3 hours. We'd get usually paid $100 or so. And I remember that, this is in the era when you'd get an envelope from the bar with your money, and it would say, "Future sounds good." And it was just, I remember that feeling of like, man, they don't even try to get your name right. I always say it was a lot of humiliation at first, because you're trying to be good and you're trying to be in a band that people take seriously, and it's not happening. We got another gig at actually what was a pretty cool bar in Fort Lauderdale called Poorhouse, and we were really excited about it, but it was the day after Halloween.
Don't ever play the day after Halloween.
There was literally nobody there.
The contract, which was oral, was for $250, and we would play from 11 to 3 a.m. And we did. And at the end of the night, the guy said, look, I can't pay you all I told you I was going to. Then in December, we booked another show at Club M in Hollywood, and we billed it as our last show ever. We didn't expect to play any more shows. I was moving to Gainesville with Stacy in a couple weeks, and we figured that was it.